My sister got a $25,000 check to build her brand. I got mocked with just a pile of dusty old papers. I smiled and walked away. I never told them when I secretly bought my first manuscript, or the second, or the Renaissance one I restored. Then my mom Googled my name, and suddenly that $40,000 wasn't just savings. It wasn't a rainy day fund. It was my freedom fund. It was 7 years of working my full-time job as an archivist and then coming home to my small studio apartment to do freelance conservation work until 2 in the morning. 7 years of saying no to vacations, no to new clothes, no to dinners I couldn't afford. It was $40,000 of disciplined, quiet work. And it had a single purpose. There was a private heritage auction scheduled in 3 weeks. And in that auction, there was one item I had been tracking for over a year, a late Renaissance manuscript badly damaged that everyone else had overlooked. But I knew what it was. I had studied the watermark on the paper, the specific chemical composition of the ink. It was my one chance to acquire something that could redefine my entire career. It was my future. And they took it to buy Savannah ring lights and a new laptop. It took me a long time to understand what was really happening. I used to think it was just favoritism, but it's deeper than that. It's psychology. In a family pack, there is often a golden child and a black sheep. The golden child, my sister Savannah, is the one who perfectly reflects the family's superficial values. My parents, Robert and Susan, worship what they can show off the illusion of fame, the number of followers, the shiny equipment. Savannah is their mirror, and they love what they see. The black sheep, that's me, is the one who just by existing exposes the family's emptiness. My values are invisible to them. Knowledge history, preservation, patience. These things have no flashy metric. They are quiet. And in their house, quiet is the same as worthless. My passion didn't just confuse them, it was an accusation. And so I, the black sheep, had to be punished for not reflecting their values back at them. Knowing that didn't make the theft hurt less. It just made it clearer. My small studio apartment, the one they pitied me for, was more than my home. It was my workshop, my conservation studio. It was the one place on earth I felt completely safe. You see, when you have a dream that fragile, you learn not to talk about it to people who carry hammers. My family didn't just doubt my ambition. They were skeptical of its right to exist. So I built a secret place. My studio wasn't a fortress to hide in. It was a nursery. It was the only humid, protected environment where my ideas could germinate safe from the stomping feet of their disbelief. It was the one place their judgment couldn't reach. And with that one text message, they had taken a bulldozer to my nursery. They had burned down my secret garden to plant Savannah's plastic flowers. The clarity was absolute. This wasn't a family dispute. This was an invasion. It took less than 24 hours for the counterattack to begin. My lawyer Julia had sent the initial demand letter via courier and email. It was calm, factual, and lethal. It simply stated the amount $40,000 and outlined a 30-day window to propose a repayment plan. My phone rang. It was my father, Robert. I stared at the screen, then answered and put it on speakerphone. I didn't say hello. "Madison?" he barked. "What in the hell is this? Are you out of your mind? A lawyer to your own family?" I waited. "You are being completely irrational," he continued, his voice rising. "This is a simple family matter. We needed that money for Savannah. She has a real career, a tangible future, and you're going to throw a tantrum over Over what dusty old papers? I took a slow breath. The anger I expected to feel wasn't there. It was just cold, clinical. It was my money, Dad, I said, my voice flat. It's just money, he yelled. It's paper. You're choosing paper over your sister, over your mother and me. How selfish can you be? You're not a child anymore, Madison. Stop being so unrealistic. He was equating my life savings, my entire career's ambition, with a child's tantrum. The irony was acidic. Is that all I asked? He was stunned into silence for a moment, probably expecting me to cry or apologize. You are tearing this family apart, Madison, over nothing. You already did that, I said. Julia's email is clear. You have 30 days to respond to her. I hung up. I didn't have time to process before my phone buzzed again. A text from my mother, Susan. A wall of text. Madison, your father is devastated. I have never seen him so disappointed. How could you do this to us? After everything we've given you, you are breaking my heart. You are destroying this family. Please call off your lawyer. This is a mess. Call me immediately. We need to fix what you've done. I read the words, disappointed. Given me what you've done. It was suddenly so clear. They weren't shocked by the theft. They were shocked that I had locked the cash register. My compassion, my silence, my willingness to be the understanding one. It hadn't been a personality trait. It had been a resource. And I had just cut off the supply. Then came the final blow. My phone buzzed again. A notification from Instagram. Savannah, my sister, had just posted a new video. I clicked it. There she was, 27 years old, beaming in front of a mountain of new equipment. Ring lights and new camera boxes from Apple. She smiled her bright, practiced smile. I'm just so overwhelmed and grateful right now, she chirped to her followers. My amazing family just gave me this incredible investment to help build my brand. It means the world when your family truly believes in you and invests in your dreams. Not everyone is that lucky. She blew a kiss at the camera. I watched it twice. The casual cruelty, the public performance. They hadn't just stolen from me, they were celebrating it. They were using my stolen future as a prop in her video about family support. That was it. The last flicker of doubt, of misplaced loyalty, was extinguished. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was an execution. And they had just handed me the gun. I met Julia at her office, high-rise, all glass and steel, overlooking the city. I didn't take the comfortable client couch. I sat in the hard-backed chair opposite her desk. I slid the printouts of my father's voicemails and my mother's texts across the polished wood. I added a screenshot of Savannah's Instagram video, the one of her surrounded by new equipment. They have no intention of paying, I said. It wasn't a guess. It was a diagnosis. They believe they were entitled to that $40,000. They see my ambition as a hobby and hers as a career. They see my legal letter as a tantrum. Julia finished reading the last text. She looked up, her expression unreadable. Okay. She folded her hands. Then we adjust the strategy. As of this moment, you are no longer their daughter. You are the plaintiff. They are the defendants. We're past polite letters. We file the civil suit. But to make this stick, I need ammunition. I need to know exactly what we're squeezing. She leaned forward. I'm filing for a full, immediate financial discovery of their assets. All of them. Do it, I said. The next 10 days were the quietest of my life. I went to my job at the archive. I came home. I didn't go to my studio. I couldn't. I just sat in my apartment. The auction catalog lay on my coffee table closed. My boyfriend Elias came by. He didn't try to cheer me up. He just made tea and sat with me in the silence. "You're not grieving," he said one night, looking at my face. "You're calculating." "I'm just balancing the books," I whispered. The call came the following Tuesday. I was at my desk examining a 17th century letter when Julia's name flashed on my screen. I picked it up. "Madison," she said. Her voice was different. The calm, professional lawyer tone was gone. It was tight, strained. "Are you sitting down?" My stomach went cold. "What is it?" "I got the discovery documents, the bank records." She paused. "Madison, they didn't take $40,000 from your savings account." I frowned, confused. "What?" "Yes, they did." I watched the balance drop. "No," Julia said, her voice sharp. "They transferred $40,000, but it wasn't from your savings account. They couldn't have. That account has been nearly empty for over a year." I couldn't speak. The room started to spin. Empty, but I've been saving for 7 years. I put every freelance check in there. "I know," Julia said, "and they've been draining it. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Small amounts over years. You were so focused on putting money in, you never noticed them bleeding it out." I gripped the edge of my desk. "Then, Julia, if my savings were empty, where did the $40,000 come from?" There was a heavy silence on the line. "That's the part you need to sit down for," Julia said softly. "I didn't just pull their bank records. I pulled yours. All of them. From every institution tied to your Social Security number. Madison, did you know that your maternal grandmother left you a trust fund?" I felt a jolt of shock. "What?" "No. She left me some bonds when she passed. My parents said it was about $5,000. "No, Madison," Julia said. Her voice was pure ice now. "She left you a private trust fund with your parents as the trustees. A trust fund with an initial value of $450,000. I stopped breathing. $450,000. They hid it," I whispered. "They hid it," Julia confirmed. "And for the last 8 years, they have been systematically liquidating it. They've been forging your signature on the withdrawal slips. The $40,000 they borrowed for Savannah was just the very last of it. They cleaned it out." My mind flashed back every time my dad said I was unrealistic, every time my mom pitied my little hobby. They weren't just being dismissive. They were actively robbing me to keep me small. "It gets worse," Julia said. "How?" I whispered. "How can it possibly be worse?" "I have the original trust document. Your grandmother, God rest her soul, was very specific. I'm reading the central clause right now." She cleared her throat and read, "This fund is bequeathed to my granddaughter Madison to be used exclusively for her scholarly pursuits and for the acquisition and preservation of historical artifacts and manuscripts." I dropped the phone. It clattered onto the desk. They knew. It wasn't just money. It was my money for this purpose. My grandmother had seen me. She had understood my passion. And my parents had taken that legacy, that belief, and set it on fire to buy my sister a better camera angle. The shock lasted for 1 second. Then it was gone, replaced by something cold and hard and perfectly clear. This wasn't a family drama. This wasn't a civil dispute. I picked up the phone. "Julia," I said, my voice terrifyingly calm, "this is no longer a civil suit, is it?" I could hear the grim satisfaction in her voice. "No, Madison, this is a criminal case. This is felony fraud. This is forgery. And this is grand larceny. Good, I said. Proceed. Julia didn't just file a civil suit. She took the entire file, the bank statements, the forged withdrawal, slips the trust document from my grandmother, and walked it over to the district attorney's office. Things moved very, very fast after that. It was no longer about money. It was about multiple felony counts. Grand larceny, aggravated identity theft, felony fraud. Warrants were issued for my parents, Robert and Susan. The auction was in 3 days. I was sitting in my apartment staring at the closed catalog when the pounding started. It wasn't a knock. It was a frantic, desperate banging on my apartment door. I knew who it was. I stood up, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. It was my mother, Susan. Her hair was a mess. Her face was pale and streaked with tears. She looked nothing like the polished woman who had hosted that steak dinner. She looked terrified. I opened the door. She practically fell into the room, grabbing at my arms. Her hands were ice cold. Madison! Oh, thank God, Madison! Please! I didn't say anything. I just stood there. You have to stop this, she sobbed, her voice cracking. You have to call them your father. They're going to arrest your father. Robert, they're talking about prison. She was shaking me as if trying to wake me from a spell. Please, Madison. He's your father. You can't do this to him. It was a mistake. We were going to pay you back. No, you weren't, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through her hysteria. She recoiled, her eyes wide. What? You weren't going to pay me back, I repeated. You've been stealing from me for 8 years. You hid a $450,000 trust fund from me. You forged my name. You weren't borrowing. You were stealing. Her face crumpled. The fake indignation was gone, replaced by raw panic. But Savannah, what about Savannah? Her career, this will ruin her. All her brand deals her followers. If this gets out, she'll lose everything. And there it was. After everything, after criminal charges, after the threat of prison, her first thought was still the golden child. Her first instinct was to protect the image of her perfect daughter, the one who was currently using my stolen legacy to build her brand. I finally understood. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to do damage control. I wasn't her daughter. I was a problem to be managed. I felt something break inside me. It wasn't my heart. It was the last invisible thread that connected me to her. The illusion of family evaporated. All I saw was the woman who had co-signed on the theft of my entire life. I turned away from her and walked to my desk. On it was a stack of papers, the official copy of the criminal complaint Julia had filed. I picked it up. My mother was still babbling. Madison, please, I'm begging you. I'm your mother. You can't let this happen. Do something. I turned back and held out the thick stack of paper. She looked at it, confused, her hands trembling. You're right, I said. You asked me to do something. She took the packet from my hand. She read the first page. Criminal Court. The People versus Robert and Susan. Her face went white. She looked up at me, her mouth open a silent scream. I didn't do this, Mom. I said my voice is cold and sterile as my studio. This is a list of everything you did. This is the accounting. This is the balance sheet. I walked to the door and opened it. The hallway light spilled in cutting a line between us. She just stood there clutching the document, shaking her head in disbelief. Madison, no. Goodbye, Mom, I said, and I closed the door. They didn't dare go to trial. The evidence was absolute. the forged signatures, the trust document, the bank records. It was a locked box. Faced with the choice between a plea deal that involved full restitution and a trial that guaranteed prison time, they chose the plea. They sold the house, the big, beautiful house they had used as a backdrop for their perfect family. They sold the cars. They liquidated everything. 2 days before the heritage auction, $450,000 plus interest and legal fees was wired into my account. It wasn't a victory. It wasn't forgiveness. It was an invoice paid in full. The next day I sat in the front row of the auction house. Elias sat beside me. When the damaged Renaissance manuscript, my manuscript, came up, the auctioneer started the bidding. I raised my paddle. Another bidder countered. I raised mine again. The price climbed, but I didn't flinch. This wasn't their money. This was my grandmother's legacy. This was my future. Sold, the auctioneer, said, his gavel cracking the air. To paddle number 73. I lowered my paddle. I didn't smile. I just breathed. I spent the next 6 months in my studio. Not the old one, but a new, larger one. I had the money, but more importantly, I had the work. I spent every day, every night with that manuscript, my hands steady and sure, cleaning the parchment, stabilizing the ink, slowly, meticulously bringing it back to life. And in that quiet work, I found what I was looking for. Hidden in the margins, written in a chemical compound I barely recognized, were notes. Invisible to the naked eye, marginalia, a hidden confession. It revealed the true author of the work someone history had never suspected. 6 months later, the Art and Conservation Journal published a 10-page feature. Not about my family, not about the money. It was about the manuscript. It was about my discovery. The article, written by a leading history professor from Cambridge, credited me, Madison, the invisible archivist, with the discovery. My analysis, my conservation work, had changed a small piece of history. The final scene isn't me in a new house or driving a new car. It's me standing in a quiet museum. And there, in a climate-controlled glass case, is my manuscript, the light hitting the restored gold leaf. It's no longer dusty old paper. It's a priceless artifact. And as I stood there, I realized I was finally free. And now I want to say this to you, to the person who is feeling invisible, to you, the one who is building in silence while everyone else is posing for pictures. Your hammer may be quiet, but the foundations you are laying will one day shake the ground. Stop looking for their approval. Stop asking for their permission. Don't look for recognition. Become the proof. If this story resonated with you, share it, because you never know. There might be another invisible archivist out there who needs to hear this today.